Hi, it's Tess. My phone wants me to rotate, so I guess that part isn't working. It worked on TikTok, but it's not working here. So today I'm going to talk about, I've been reading a book by Matthew McConaughey, Greenlights, and he had a statement in what I've been reading lately, and it's called Lifting Your Roof. He refers to a roof, R-O-O-F, as a man-made thing, and he kind of refers to it as a roof is where we limit ourselves. We don't reach beyond and go for more. And of course, his wasn't about a weight loss journey, but I kind of equated it to that. He was talking about a football team that lost the game because they put a roof on their abilities, not because the other team beat them, but because they beat themselves. And it made me realize that even in our weight loss journey, we create the roof sometimes. Doc V talks a lot about how we set very low standards on what our weight loss goals are. Or even in the bariatric community, 60% of the excess weight is an achievable goal or a goal to celebrate. And I thought it was interesting that Matthew McConaughey was talking about this in his drive and in his goals to try to get into Hollywood, because this is a talk he had just at the time that he was breaking in. It's a great book, and it starts way back in his youth. But it was kind of like, do I deserve this? He kind of talks about that we let the minor things prevent us from getting things that are bigger than us, that we limit ourselves, that we don't reach further. He said we need to learn to stay in the moment, because we need to enjoy the doing of what's going on right this minute. We need to be present. We need to reach beyond. We need an immortal finish line. He said the roof that we all put on things that we do, it's man-made, and we've got to release that roof and reach beyond what we've always known and what we've always done. And if I'm sure I've said this millions of times before, but it comes up in all my groups. Doc V talks about it a lot. Chris Nagel talks about it a lot. Zara Mahoon talks about it a lot. We put limits, and then when we put the limits up, we create fears and we create obstacles and we create walls, or in Matthew McConaughey's words, roofs that are difficult to overcome. And I kind of think back to even in my days of tutoring all my students. Those guys were amazing in what they accomplished. Many of my students, we have an educational system that teaches a certain way. So I worked with many students. There was a period of time where I probably worked with about 50 students. And it was never that they weren't smart. It was just that they needed a different approach to learning. So I often don't even like the words learning disabled. I think that it's just that their learning needs to be enabled in another way. So I thought this was interesting that Matthew McConaughey said his approach to Hollywood was just totally different. His mom kind of gave him a, don't walk in there like you want it. You walk in there like you own it. And I know we've all heard that kind of thing before, but we all live in fear so often that we have to push past it. And I'm listening, I own the book and I have the audio, because I kind of use an audio while I'm reading a book, because it pushes me through further. Because I'm a reformed perfectionist, because I'm realizing perfection just is a form of fear that prevents me from moving forward. So what I'm trying to do is keep pushing myself forward. And I found that an audio book with the hard copy book keeps me moving forward, so I don't get caught up. Plus, the other bonus to that is being a former tutor. I know that multi-sensory is the best way to learn, because if you hear it, you're seeing it, even touching the page as you run your finger across it, you retain more, because that's just how studies have shown we learn. So that's kind of how I approach it going forward, as I do it multi-sensory. And they found that hand over fist. And Taylor, who's on here right now, hi Tay, she would know that, because I'm sure I practiced on her somewhere along the way when she was a kid, because she was a kid at the time that I was doing all of that. But it is interesting that even in this Hollywood story of Matthew McConaughey, and it's a really fun story if you want to read it or listen to it audio, he talks about how he had to stop putting limits, because every time he got too into himself, he wasn't getting the roles he wanted. He had to pull back and think that I don't have to have this job, but I want it. And he even talks about mentors along the way, that, somebody he went out to Hollywood with, that he was hungry and he's like, I don't have food and I got to get a job. And the guy's like, you're not ready. If you are fearful that you need a job, Hollywood will smell it and you'll never have a shot. So he sent him off to Europe for a month. And when he came back, the guy said, you're ready. Not that, again, this is out of Matthew McConaughey's book, and I don't want to give the whole thing away, but it was interesting how even he, who seems very confident, talks about that he was groomed in an environment where you don't set a roof on anything. You reach for everything. And I liked where he was talking about that you have to reach beyond your grasp. You have to let the roof up. You have to stop putting roofs up. Roofs are man-made. And if a roof is man-made, it's something that we put up. It's not what God put up for us. It's what we put up that stops us. And we have to have an immortal finish line. Know that God has the limits and he can let us go as far as we want. Whether you want to call it God, universe, source, we can go as far as we want to go. It's us. We create the roof, and we have to stop creating the roofs and push past it. And I really liked his analogy. He referred to it for a sports team, but his journey wasn't a weight loss journey. But I found it so interesting. Don't put up a roof. Don't put up a ceiling. That's a limit of a belief in yourself. And we don't want to limit what we believe in ourselves. We know that all things are possible. And if we keep reaching, it's really like, even for myself in the past couple of years, door after door after door, opportunity after opportunity, options of learning. I truly have always enjoyed loving to learn. And I really love knowing that no matter where I am at in my life, learning is never done. Hey, Julie, good morning. And Julie's part of all of this with me too. I love learning. I love seeing different ways that people are doing things. I love knowing that it doesn't matter how old you are. Learning keeps you young at heart. It keeps you available to more options, and it keeps you current in a world that's changing every day. So if you haven't thought about it, open yourself up to maybe grabbing a book, an audio, joining one of these groups, reaching, as Matthew McConaughey says, reaching beyond your grasp. Being immortal, well, I'll use his words exactly. Reach beyond your grasp and use an immortal finish line. When you put a roof or a limit on what you accomplish, that's man-made, and it's a limit of your own belief in yourself. It's not the belief that God, source, universe, however you want to look at it, whatever is your comfort, it isn't his limit that you put on, it's your limit. And he referred to, and this is terrible, but all the men will probably want to punch me, but he referred to a certain sports game, and it may have even been a Super Bowl, where he said the team wasn't beaten, they beat themselves because they gave up. They put a limit, they put a roof on their potential. And I just thought this was so telling, because everything in this world is changing, but I love coming at it hopeful, excited, curious, and I'm not being let down. There are so many interesting things going on, and I don't know exactly what direction I'll go in, but it's fun, and I'm surrounded by so many people that are doing so many amazing things, and it gives me just a little hand up when I need help getting to that next step. So I hope that same thing for you. If you're feeling fearful or you're feeling uncomfortable, try to reach up to somebody else and try to find a way to find that excitement, that curiosity, and lift the roof. Lift the roof and reach for, as Matthew McConaughey says, the immortal finish line. We got to get rid of roofs, because roofs are that limit of our own belief in ourselves. That's our stop. It's not the stop that God or the universe put for us. It's one that we put for ourselves. So lift the roof and let's go out there and see everything that's available and experience everything. So as we slide into home base, or as we finally get to that point where the Grim Reaper has figured out how to catch us, we don't go home leaving any of the gifts behind that we were brought here with. So thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you all so much, and have a beautiful day, and lift the roof and reach for those immortal finish lines. Don't let anything stop you. I think there's some beautiful things out there. We just have to reach for them. Have a beautiful day.